Hi everybody, and welcome to this series of interviews that we're doing from the European Student Think Tank. Today we have a very special guest that I really want to thank for coming here, Professor Carlos Moreiro. Thank you again for being with us today.
Thank you, Pedro. Thank you and congratulations for your initiative. I think you are making an outstanding work, and we need this kind of initiatives in the current world. We are living special times. I don't know, probably our parents and grandparents and our ancestors live in more troubled periods than we are experiencing now. But anyway, I wish to underline my congratulations for your initiative because we need it.
Thank you, Professor. Really, we appreciate, and it's much easier when professionals in academia like you want to participate in this and help us. So that's really helpful. Indeed, what I wanted to do first was kind of introduce you so the people from the think tank know who you are. You are a chair professor in international law at the University Carlos III of Madrid here in Spain. You are also a Jean Monnet Chair, which is a great honor awarded by the European Union.
Ad personam,
which is also very important. And you've got such an extensive resume that really I would just highlight some things like you've taught, of course, in the Spanish Ministry School of Diplomacy, so teaching the future diplomats of Spain, and quite remarkable too, you've been a legal advisor for the European Economic and Social Committee and the Convention for the Future of Europe, which was really a very important moment in EU's development. So just to mention some merits of that resume. And one of your latest areas of research has been financial regulations. And you've written an article in Cuadernos de Derecho Transnacional, which is ranked first in almost every ranking in Spain as the most cited law review. So it's been quite important, and you wrote that opening article for it. And I have to admit, it's been quite, I think it's a bit of controversial topic about regulation in Europe, in the US. Just to start a bit with the basics. In your article, you talk about how after the 2008 crisis, countries tried to learn from that and reach the Basel III agreement. And we had this debate right now about how deregulation might have harmed the economy and destabilize institutions. So my first question is, what are the main lessons that we learned from the 2008 crisis?
Well, 2008 financial crisis have to be hooked or linked, as you like, with 2010, 2011 debt borrower crisis. I mean, the world that we are living today, or at least a very important part of the world that we are living today, is strongly linked to both events. And well, it's more and more clear that although G20 and almost all central banks with a relevant role in the financial world enacted on more or less the same ground at the time, it was not enough to overcome the damages, the destruction. And what is more important to me, because in the financial world enacted capable to overcome, that moral and political damages, these are much more difficult things to overcome. And in my view, the damages derive from both crises, which I underline were strongly linked, are on the ground of many of the current problems which are suffering democracies in the Western world. Because many people lose the standards of life. Many people, well, it's very easy to know that I think statistical studies shows that almost 10-15% of the population of the Western world lose their standards of life. And the problem is not to lose the standard of life. In the life of every human being, you have cycles. I mean, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, but more or less you have the options to, overcome the problems. The very big issue with the crisis of 2008, 2010, 11 is that this crisis didn't create only these material damages, but also they do not let states to give their citizens the opportunity to begin again and to have a new future. And it was a kind of endless it was the end of a history that began after the Second World War, when most of the Western countries had the chance to get outstanding standards of life. Never in the history of human beings, never we had such kind of standards of life that were spreading all around the world. And it seems that this is the end of the party, and this is terrible, because probably you young generation, you have been named or identified with a lot of alphabet letters, X generation, I don't know. I mean, you are young, you are young people, as I was a young boy many years ago. And now you young, we have a really completely different situation. I mean, even if a government if a serious government is a responsible government of a Western country, wishes to deploy all the capabilities to invest for the well-being of the population, and to give young people the chance to go up in their lives. I don't have now so clear idea that it will be possible. I think we are beginning a new era, and all this problem with COVID-19 is damaging much more the situation, So we were really hard by the damages caused by the 2008, 2010, 11 financial crisis, and now we are approaching to a black hole where nobody have a clear idea of where we are going. So let me tell you that I'm optimistic as a personal way of life, but today I consider that most of the Western countries, and even, other countries that are not so much open to a scrutiny and supervision, like some Eastern countries, I don't wish to say names, they are, the governments, they are not so much reliable about what they can do for the citizens. Probably the only thing that they are trying to do is to keep the population safe as much as they could. But thinking on terms of what can I do to give chances to most of my population to progress and to have better standards of life, I'm not sure that the governments now are on the position to give such kind of tools to their citizens to progress on their day-to-day life. So I consider that the damages has been very, very, very deep, and it's not going to be easy to overcome those damages.
Indeed, yes, we face, as you say, a very difficult scenario, and it might not be possible to get back to our previous situation. But I think at this point we're doing some damage contention, we're doing some crisis management, and at this point we want things to not get more worse, right? So what I was wondering is from your experience, now that we face another huge crisis, what things can we do differently as compared to the crisis of 2008 and that debt crisis of 2010? Because we've seen a different reaction and a different position from the European Union on this. So,
this is truth.
And do you think that change is positive and it's going in the right direction? And what is other things that could be done, especially in Europe, to address that?
I mean, it is clear that we need more international cooperation, more solidarity, and to create the tools. For example, if you talk about the European Union, it is clear that the European Union right now do not have the tools to avoid divergences between richest and poorer parts of the population in a country. No, I mean, the European Union can guarantee free competition, the provision of the four fundamental freedoms. Obviously, it is helping to create a more safe standard net for the 27 member states of the European Union. But if you read the treaties, the European Union is not capable to do more things for the whole community of the European citizens. So what I'm looking for is that in the coming years, probably the next years, we will have a revision of the treaties, and within these new brand treaties, we can give the European Union the tools, not only to overcome the current situation, but to be prepared for all the gambles that we have to play in the 21st century. So there is only one way to cooperate and to create supranational tools to guarantee solidarity between the member states of the European Union. But up to date, if you have a look, what you can see is that the European Central Bank has adopted outstanding politics as never before. I mean, this is really something that, in my view, every time I have to explain the last 10 years of the European Union, I always say, the key institution is the European Central Bank. We will not be here all together if the European Central Bank will not have the capability to operate in the way it is doing now, and it has been done from at least 6-7 years. You remember these famous words from the former president of the European Central Bank, whatever it takes, whatever it takes. And it's truth. But at the end of the day, this is monetary policy, which is good, but it's not enough. And on the other hand, the European Union has been capable to agree for the creation of an recovery fund of almost 1 billion euros. But this is not enough, because I was reading recently a very interesting paper for a well-known researcher that said that it's not a question to invest money. It's a question on how we invest money. Because we have enough bridges, we have outstanding highways, we have outstanding airports, ports. So we have to focus on new targets. And this is something that it's still pending, we don't know how are we going to invest the money of the recovery fund. So obviously, thanks to the European Union, we have avoided the house collapsing, the catastrophe. But this is only an emergency brake, we need to create new foundations and new ways to work together, because this year and the year before has been the problem of COVID-19. But in 5 or 6 years, who knows? And as we are together in this project, that it hopes to be a never-ending story, because this is an integration process. So we hope that it will be more and more and more and more and more approaching targets that we are going to share together. We need to create new tools, supranational tools, not only to fight, but to prevent situations that could seriously damage the foundations, not only of the European Union, but even of democracy and wellness in the member states. And this is something that politicians have to take very seriously. And I have some spoil, I have some, good vibrations regarding the next revision of the treaties. I think the governments of the member states do realize that we cannot continue like we are. We are working now together,
I completely agree with you that cooperation would be wonderful and would be have a very positive impact. But as you've said, we're also facing difficult choices and difficult decisions where it is difficult to agree. Like even within the European Union, we've seen that with this summer with the bonds and all the CARES provisions about how would the European Union lend credit to the states, and that has created quite a bit of tension between the member states, between those that approach a more, let's say, conservative part of investment and the ones that believe that we should give direct credit. So I think the EU is gonna evolve in that term. Do you think that we're going towards mutualizing debt and sharing responsibilities, or do you think that further integration and giving more power to the European Union would be done by limiting that decision making and adopting a more conservative view? What do you think? How do you think that we will evolve?
I mean, you have the answer on the recent agreement between the European Parliament and the European Council. They have been capable to reach an agreement on the implementation of the recovery fund and the budget for the next 7 years.
think that
this is a clear proof that we are approaching new times. Mutualisation, this is clear. In what way? Let's see. But this is clear. I mean, do not forget that the SURE program, I think is yesterday or the day before, it was the third emission of debt, of European Union debt, to get money for SURE, and it has the standard, the qualification of this debt is the triple AAA, which means that everybody would like to have this kind of bonds. These European bonds are qualified with the higher standards, and this is a clear proof that we are approaching new times. So I think we'll go through a new landscape where mutualisation will play a very much relevant role. The higher standards are some other issues. There are some other, subjects where the European Union and the member states have still to get an agreement in order to, for example, decide how much agricultural and fish policies we wish in the European Union. Do we need to invest almost half of the budget of the European Union in this area, or it is better to think on, green capabilities, digital world, education, research, create European championships, but European championships for all Europe, not only for the great countries of the European Union, because, it wouldn't be fair. So these are things that the head of state and government and the representatives of elected for the occasion in the next revision of the treaties. I hope that it's going to be open a new convention. That should be the third convention. Everybody forget the first convention. That was the convention that wrote the European Charter of Human Rights. They have to work on all these issues. Nevertheless, I underline, we have an outstanding step with the mutualisation of the debt, and this is the future. There is no way back. It's only walk and walk and walk and walk and walk in only one direction.
I am looking forward to that future, Professor, and as how you explain it, you sound really persuasive. I just want on an ending note on all of this to especially have a focus on young people and the youth and what can they do. So as young people, what are the things that we can do differently as consumers, as citizens who have claims towards politicians? What direction should we push for? Concrete actions that we can make that will help build that future that you talk about.
Thank you. Before I answer to your question, let me tell you first one thing. You are the treasure. You are the treasure of our societies. I am very proud to work with you, not only with the postgraduate students, like is your case, and your colleagues, but also undergraduates. And I have also the privilege to teach at the Diplomatic School of Spain and to get in touch with young people from almost 65 countries all around the world. And you are the fresh air that a man of 57 years old need to breathe every day to be happy, because obviously when you arrive to to most of the middle ages of your life, you have experienced a lot of things, some victories, some defeats, and to work with you is a privilege and it's a treasure. I learned a lot from you, and I got from you a lot of inspiration. So after telling you that, I think you are changing the standards. I think, and probably I'm wrong, that you are rely much more on cooperation, on imagination, on mutual respect. You are not so much encouraged to get something forever. I mean, to be landlords or landladies, to have real estate, to have huge quantity of money, to have a car. I think you are much more prepared for a sharing community where you can rent a car, you can rent a house, and you are much more sensitive to common needs. You are sensitive to the protection of the environment. You are sensitive to the protection of the most weakest members of our society, minorities, and so on. And I think your contribution to the future of human being could be outstanding. So the only thing we can do is to give you our experience, to be in a permanent dialogue with you. And the only difference between you and I and the people of my generation is that we are a little bit older, and we had the chance to live, and I was born in a democracy, so we all were born in a democracy, and this is a privilege. So the only thing that I can tell is be as you are, but please preserve this wonderful thing that is the European Union, democracy, the rule of law, and the respect of the dignity of human beings. And I trust that, as President Obama said some years ago, yes, we can.
Thank you very much, Professor. That was very encouraging. And I am also sure that the spirit of my generation is also driven by educators like you that give us the tool to pursue our goals and our great objectives and be able to succeed on that. So thank you very much. And thank you for being here with us for the European Student Think Tank. I think it was a great interview, and I really hope that we can do maybe another activity later on. I would love that.
Thanks to you, and congratulations again.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you.
Good evening.
Thank you. Good evening.